welcome, sir. So,
Okay.
could you tell us whether there are any provisions in our regulations for fast track approvals, particularly in emergency situations like the current ones?
Okay, so thank you everyone, and I think that was a very good. All my fellow speakers had a very good idea. They gave us a good concept about the clinical trials, how these vaccine has been developed and been developing right now. I wanted to give a perspective about how the regulatory affairs actually responding. Different competent authorities, regulatory authorities are actually responding with current crisis. So it's a big crisis right now, and every every company, every researchers, different universities are racing towards to getting a viable product which can be a vaccine or some other means of product. Like some places, PDT, plasma derived therapies, are actually being tested to make sure that these products or these vaccines can able to help people to overcome this situation. And you know uh, regulatory authorities and competent bodies are no different. They are responding and they are changing with current environment. So every regulatory authority do have processes in place in terms of how they respond uh, any priority medicine. So it's no different with that. But in current situation, it's slightly different because we need to have those approvals and product in place, in especially in markets, different markets, as soon as possible. So they are responding differently. What I wanted to focus, it's one of the case study which is very recent. You're probably all hearing lots of news about Gilead remdesivir. It's one of the only product is actually being approved for emergency use in America right now, and it's currently being under review with different regulatory procedures in Europe right now. So it's a very interesting. So I thought this is a very good idea to share with all of you, to make sure that how this being reached to that stage where we have that emergency approval in US right now. So I will share my screen.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I'll request Kaushal to give sir permission to share the screen.
So can everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. It's visible. It's visible.
Okay, so I start with how US FDA has been responding in terms of yeah, in terms of current crisis. So US FDA did establish a coronavirus treatment accelerated program, which is they call CTAP. And given the urgent nature of the pandemic and the number of companies and researchers developing COVID-19 related therapies, FDA has created a special emergency program for possible therapies. The coronavirus treatment, which is CTAP, it uses every available method to move new treatments to patients as quickly as possible, while at the same time finding out whether they are helpful or harmful. FDA also continue to support clinical trials that are testing new treatments for COVID, so that FDA gain valuable knowledge about their safety and effectiveness. As been discussed in previous slides also, or by the previous speakers, that it's a kind of a rolling regulatory process where they are actually giving approvals, or they are actually considering providing emergency use approvals. But also same time there are phase 3 clinical trials going on in different markets, bigger set of sample size, where they are using more people who are participating in clinical trials. So this is an ongoing process, and because this is an unprecedented situation, that's why regulatory agencies are actually reacting in that manner. It's not the normal case, where normal case even the accelerated process do take time, like in EMA, in European Union, it do take time up to 150 days. But obviously in this situation, they are trying to cut down that short time also. Just one few points that how actually different FDA or different regulatory bodies are reacting. Like they are redeploying medical and regulatory staff to review teams dedicated to COVID-19 therapies, involve senior management in review of submissions so they can able to have the quick approval processes, streamline processes, and they are still chopping and changing some of their part of regulations to make sure that they can have early approval cycle. Provided resources to healthcare providers and researchers to help them to submit emergency requests for their investigational program. FDA are in process of providing more data, more timeline, but because it's in very early stage, so they are not actually providing any set of timeline that they will finish the review process in, say, an example, few days time or few weeks time, or even going to take few months time. It's all based on it's all ad hoc basis and case to case basis, and they are putting lots of efforts right now. So we definitely quite thankful in terms of all the regulatory bodies. They are putting lots of time and efforts to make sure these products can come to market quickly. So that's a recent development in terms of US FDA. So on 1st of May, which is yesterday, the US FDA issued an emergency use authorization for the investigational antiviral drug remdesivir for the treatment of suspected or laboratory confirmed COVID-19 in adults and children hospitalized with severe disease. While there is a limited information about the safety and effectiveness of using remdesivir to treat people in the hospital with COVID-19, the investigational drug was shown in a clinical trial to shorten the time of recovery in some patients. So this is again, it's a typical example, where regulatory agencies are doing some unprecedented steps and making sure, even though we don't have all the clinical evidence in terms of that how effective the product, how effective this remdesivir is, but still that showed lots of results in test condition or the clinical trial done by Gilead, that it can be considered. So this is this is kind of an emergency regulatory approval in US FDA. Then I go to other side of the pond, which is EMA, European Medicine Agency. This is also there are usual set of regulatory processes in place, like PRIME, which is they do have their accelerated approval process for 150 days for priority medicine. But even in this case, that could be very long. 150 days could be very long. So they are actually trying something new called rolling review for remdesivir in this case. And the European Medicine Agency, Human Medicine Committee, CHMP, says it has started a rolling review of the data on the use of Gilead antiviral remdesivir for the treatment of coronavirus disease. The rolling review used by agency to accelerate the assessment of promising investigational medicine during a public health emergency, such as the current pandemic. Under normal circumstances, all data supporting a marketing authorization application must be submitted at the start of evaluation procedure. So you submit all your data, and then there are different phases, and then you get the marketing approval. It could take up to 210 days or even less in the accelerated approval process. But in this case, they are doing the rolling review cycle, where they can the rolling review cycle can be carried out during the evaluation of the one product as data continue to emerge, with each cycle lasting around 2 weeks, depending on the amount of data to be assessed. Once the data package is complete, the developer submit a formal marketing authorization application, which is then processed under a shortened time table. One more slide, which is, while the overall review timeline for remdesivir cannot be anticipated at this moment in EMA or in European region, it's expected that the move will allow the EMA to complete its assessment significantly earlier compared with the regular evaluation process. So as I said it before, that they are actually trying a different pathway, not even the accelerated process where you can get the approval in 150 days. So they are actually trying to even fasting their, their previous fast procedures. The CHMP decision to start the rolling review of remdesivir is based on primary result from the ACTT study, which is suggested a beneficial effect of remdesivir in the treatment of hospitalized patient with mild to moderate or severe COVID-19. However, EMA again, as US FDA also stressed out, EMA stressed out that if has not been yet evaluated the full study, and thus is to be too early to draw any conclusions regarding the benefit risk balance of the medicine. Remdesivir is not yet authorized in European Union, which is indifferent to the US FDA, which has already been authorized to use in hospitals, but it's available to patient through clinical trials and in some cases compassionate use programs.